The soft hum of the world loading in greets us like an old friend, pixels resolving into familiarity as the horizon stretches out beneath a blocky sky the color of faded denim here, in this quiet corner of existence. Time moves differently, measured not in seconds, but in the patient sway of grass blades, in the gradual arc of the sun sliding across a cubed heaven. Today, we surrender to this rhythm. We become observers, chroniclers of a process so achingly slow it borders on meditative. Our subject, a single field of wheat, ordinary yet profound, its journey from seed to harvest a testament to Minecraft's hidden poetry. Let's begin where all growth begins, with preparation. Step closer to this patch of earth. Feel the crunch of untamed grass beneath your feet. This will be our canvas. But first, it must be made ready. Water is the silent architect of abundance here, its languid currents whispering secrets to the soil. Watch as I guide this humble wooden hoe across the ground. TCK, 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 that crisp, earthy percussion as blades of grass surrender to order, revealing rich brown soil underneath. Pixelated crumbs flying like tiny blessings. Each sweep of the tool feels like unlocking potential, transforming wilderness into rows of symmetry. Now the water always nearby, always murdering, reaches out with invisible fingers to darken the earth around it. Witness how the soil drinks deeply, transforming from dusty ember to a moist chocolate brown, glistening faintly as if touched by morning dew. There's harmony here. A perfect grid of hydrated farmland humming with readiness, each square a cradle waiting for life. Now the seeds, tiny beacons of possibility clutched in our hand. They spill from the inventory with a faint rustle, like dried leaves caught in a breeze. Press one into the earth. Just a quick tap against the damp soil, and there a pale speck vanishes beneath the surface. Again and again, this ritual repeats, each seed disappearing with a soft pop, swallowed by the fertile darkness. Soon the field is dotted with these hidden promises, the soil studded with futures unseen. And now we wait. The initial moments after planting feel suspended, time stretching thin as morning fog. But look closer there, a hint of movement beneath the soil, a subtle shifting. Suddenly, tiny green shoots pierce the earth, delicate as eyelashes blinking open after sleep. These first sprouts are shy things, barely more than splashes of mint against the dark earth, but they mark the beginning. Minecraft's days will cycle now, sun soaring overhead, stars pricking the velvet night, yet our field remains deceptively still. This is the great secret of wheat. Its growth is invisible to the impatient eye. Walk away, mine some stone, chase a wandering sheep, return hours later to find the field seemingly unchanged. But stay, wait, really see. Notice how the pale shoots deepen ever so slightly in hue, how their forms gain substance, pixel by pixel. It's easy to miss. A single stalk might shift imperceptibly while your back is turned, a quiet transformation happening only when the world isn't looking. This is the domain of random ticks, those elusive moments when the game decides the wheat has waited long enough, granting minuscule growth spurts like shy gifts. As dusk stains the sky amethyst, let's kneel beside a single plant. Watch it through the lens of unwavering attention. 1 mine-hour passes. 2, your eyes might blur from staring, convinced nothing's changed, until suddenly, magically, the stalk seems ever so slightly taller. Not by much, a pixel or two at most, but the difference whispers. The green intensifies, warming from cool lime towards the vibrant shade of summer grass. Each new stage arrives unannounced, a quiet surprise in an otherwise static landscape. There's a tension here, sweet and slow, like the drawn-out note of a cello. Will this be the moment? Is that leaf a fraction fuller, or is it a trick of the moonlight? Patience, the field murmurs, growth cannot be rushed. Days turn to nights and back again. Watch as golden sunlight spills over the field at dawn and realize with a jolt how much has changed while you weren't counting minutes. The wheat now stands knee-high, stalks rippling in unison when the wind rushes through or when you sprint past, trailing motion like a comet's tail. The color deepens further, taking on warm undertones now, hints of gold bleeding into green like sunlight through leaves. Some stalks stretch taller than their neighbors, Time's uneven hand granting progress in fits and starts. There's pleasure in these discrepancies. It mirrors nature's beautiful asymmetry, rejecting human-like order for organic chaos. Now comes the hardest stretch. The wheat stands proud, swaying, nearly there but not quite. These final stages test resolve. You circle the field, hoe in hand, resisting the urge to trample. A corner in frustration. The stalk sees, looking complete from afar but revealing stubbornly closed seed heads up close. Minutes stretch like taffy 20, 25, edging towards half an hour of real-world waiting. Leaned, observe how the uppermost tips blush yellow, how the once slender stalks now boast a satisfying thickness, their grid-like pattern sharp and mature. This is the precipice, the aching almost there that makes completion inevitable yet somehow still surprising. And then one stalk, then another, then the entire row snaps into golden perfection. The transformation is instant, total, as if an invisible painter dashed across the field with a final brushstroke. Mature wheat stands triumphant, seed heads plump and drooping slightly, radiating the deep ochre hue unique to ripened crops. The field has become a living mosaic, each plant a tiny monument to time's slow alchemy. Now the harvest a bittersweet climax. That first swing of the hand, no tool needed now. Just a touch lands on a ripe stalk. See or arcade the sound crispy and final. The wheat collapses into pixels, vanishing to leave behind drifting orbs of experience. A single plump wheat item, and crucially those precious seeds. Here lies the cycle's heartbeat. More seeds than we planted roll across the soil, glowing momentarily before gathering into inventory. There's a rhythm to the breaking CRRK stalk after stalk falling like dominoes, the field dissolving back into bare, waiting earth. Yet satisfaction mingles with melancholy after hours of nurturing. The act feels almost too swift, too easy. This is farming in miniature, the catharsis of reaping undercut by the knowledge that renewal demands repetition. So we replant, scattering seeds with practiced efficiency, pressing them into soil still warm from yesterday's sun. And as the last seed vanishes beneath the earth, we step back. The cycle begins anew, dark soil glistens, tiny shoots whisper promises, and time, our constant companion, stretches out once more. You could set a clock by these fields if you wished, but that would miss the point. Here, in the quiet glow of an endless afternoon, wheat teaches us to measure life not in ticks counted, but in moments truly seen, so settle in. The earth is dark, the seeds are planted, and the next golden harvest already pulses beneath the surface, waiting to unfurl. All it requires is your patience, your presence, your willingness to witness wonder in a single, swaying stalk of pixelated wheat. Imagine this. You've just founded your first homestead in the rolling hills of a Minecraft world. Your fledgling farm a patchwork of hopeful green amidst the wilderness. With tender care, you till the soil under the open sky, scatter seeds with dreams of golden harvests to come, and gently irrigate the earth, those neat rows of nascent wheat shoots whispering promises of future bounty. Days pass, you mine, you craft, you build, but every time you return to check on your crops, those stubborn stalks seem frozen in time, stubbornly refusing to mature. Why? How can something as simple as wheat, the backbone of survival, the key to bread, cake, and flourishing animal pens, feel like it grows slower than glaciers carve mountains? Welcome to the hidden science of stagnation, where beneath Minecraft's serene pastoral surface lies a labyrinth of game mechanics conspiring to test your patience. Let's unravel the mystery together, step by step, tick by tick. Picture your wheat field under the midday sun, those delicate green shoots basking in the glow, roots sipping moisture from nearby water blocks you so carefully placed. This is the baseline ritual of growth, light level 9 or higher, water within for blocks horizontally. Seems straightforward, right? But the moment you venture beyond the horizon, leaving your farm behind to explore caves or quest for diamonds, an invisible clockwork grinds to a halt. Chunks unload, freezing your crops in temporal amber. Those plants aren't just waiting for you, they've ceased to exist in the game's active memory, suspended until your return. And even when you're present, tending your fields with hopeful eyes, growth hinges on a cosmic lottery called the asterisk random tick asterisk. Every game tick a blistering fraction of a second each block in loaded chunks has a microscopic chance to receive a random update. For crops, this means a slim 1 in 3,072,000 chance per tick per block to advance a growth stage. Translating that to human time, you might stand vigil for minutes, even hours, before witnessing a single stalk lurch toward maturity. It's a cruel arithmetic of probability written in lines of code, where patience isn't just a virtue, it's an inevitability. Frustration mounts. You've stockpiled bone meal, that mystical dust promising instant fertility, eager to bypass nature's sluggish rhythms. With a flourish, you sprinkle it over your fledgling wheat, and nothing, again, and again. 12 applications later, the plant finally matures, each stage demanding its own sacrificial offering of bone meal. Compare this to the beetroot in the neighboring plot, leaping from seed to harvest in just 3 quick bursts of bone meal. The injustice stings. Why must wheat, the cornerstone of survival, demand such exorbitant tributes? The answer lies deep in Mojang's balancing act. Wheat feeds animals, breeds villages, and crafts essential items. Speed it up too much, and the delicate ecosystem of scarcity collapses. Every reluctant bone meal acceptance is a quiet reminder that abundance must be earned, not conjured. So you optimize, you redesign. Perhaps the problem is overcrowding those tight rows of crops, stifling growth, competing for the game's fickle attention. You tear up the field, replanting with military precision, single stalks isolated like islands. Vast grids of soil separating each plant to maximize exposure to light, water, and those precious random ticks. Days pass, data accumulates, and then heartbreak. The difference between dense thickets and sprawling plantations is negligible, a whisper in the cacophony of chance. The game's random tick system doesn't discriminate. Whether your crops are packed like subway commuters or spaced like aristocrats in a ballroom, each block still has the same minuscule odds of progression. Efficiency, it turns out, is a myth woven by desperate farmers. The optimal layout isn't about geometry, it's about sheer scale. Plant 1,000 stalks, and statistics dictate that some asterisk will bloom while you wait. The deeper you dig into Minecraft's circadian rhythms, the more surreal the paradox becomes. Sleep through the night to accelerate the passage of time, a logical shortcut, surely. But nights skipped in beds don't compress the random tick rate. They merely fast forward the celestial clock. Your crops still rely on the same achingly slow dice rolls behind the curtain. Document a 30-minute vigil in real time, a stopwatch in hand, eyes glued to a freshly planted field. 5 minutes pass, 10, 20, a stalk matures, then another, but not in sync, not in any pattern a human can predict. It's a digital pantomime of growth, each stage of victory wrested from the void. You begin to understand the game's brutal poetry. Minecraft isn't simulating agriculture. It's simulating faith asterisk. Every seed planted is a bet against randomness, a pact with an uncaring universe that rewards persistence over strategy. And yet there's beauty in this invisible machinery. The very slowness that tests your resolve also sculpts Minecraft's meditative soul. When that first field of gold finally ripples in the breeze, the payoff isn't just bread or emeralds. It's the quiet triumph of outlasting the algorithms, a bending probability to your will through sheer stubborn presence. You learn to plant and wander, to let time work its clandestine magic while you scale cliffs or delve into lava-lit caverns. You return not to a harvest, but to a surprise, a handful of stalks matured while your back was turned. Like gifts left by capricious spirits, this is the game's quiet lesson. Control is an illusion. Growth happens not when you watch, but when you live. So let those green stalks taunt you. Build around them, expand. Your patience is the real crop, and it yields more than wheat ever could. The First golden fingers of dawn pry open Farmer Joe's eyelids with the same relentless persistence they've shown every morning since the update of 2011 painted these fields into existence. He rises from his cot with joints that creak like rusty hinges on an ancient iron door, though weather from age. Or the perpetual dampness clinging to this river valley he stopped wondering seasons ago, maybe years he's long since stopped counting the calendar pages that don't turn anyway. The sun climbs its predetermined arc in the pixelated sky as he shuffles across dew. Slick grass toward the tools leaning eternally against the weathered oak fence. The wooden hoe feels like an extension of his own arm, now worn smooth where his calluses press against grain that never splinters, never changes, pulling back the same 3/4-inch layer of topsoil that parts like butter before his blade. Row after row, the monotony only broken by the quiet symphony of seeds slipping through his fingers, each kernel striking earth with a soft percussion that might be comforting if it weren't the same 12-note composition he's heard 9,622 times before he could sing the rhythm backwards in his sleep, and sometimes does when the moon hangs particularly low over the eternal silos already filled with last cycle's harvest. Though no wagon ever comes to empty them, he plants anyway, because that's what he's programmed to do. Young voices carry across the village green, laughing, chasing chickens that blink out of existence when corners are turned too sharply. He watches a child toddling yesterday turns into gangly limbs today, turns into broad shoulders, trading emeralds at the market stall by tomorrow, while his seedlings remain stubbornly frozen in their infant stage, as if time itself forgets to breathe over these furrows. The sun climbs higher, baking his straw hat into a warm crown, sweat trickling down his neck in persistent rivulets that follow identical paths across his polyester skin. In the stillness between seed and sprout, he counts the fence posts again, 47 times 47, never a plank missing, never splintered, never changing. Even termites seem to avoid this purgatory of predictability. Clouds sometimes gather in the afternoon, thick cotton wool bundles promising change, threatening rain. These phantom fronts send villagers scattering for doorways, but Joe stands motionless in his fields, face turned upward as fat digital raindrops plummet without sound, yet somehow he here's the hiss against wheat stalks that strain upward. Oh, how they strain toward false promises. After the 8th false storm, he stopped believing in growth spurts, yet still hopes against binary logic. When gray pixels curtain his horizon, the rain brings other visitors to decomposition. Heavy in the humid air, moans threading through the downpour as green limbs shamble between orderly rows. Joe hefts his hoe with the resignation of a condemned man wading into the rotted horde. Rotting feet trample tender shoots, flood. The fight never changes. The zombies collapse into identical puffballs of smoke, leaving behind bits of flesh and occasional potatoes to spoil between his perfect rows. The real battle starts when the living arrive, docile sheep with vacant stares pouring through trampled gaps in the fences, drawn inexplicably to his tender sprouts like moths to self destruction. He moves in slow motion through thickening mud, screaming silent warnings they cannot hear. A woolly tide encroaching on fragile green, barely visible above rich soya. Nose hairs twitch, pink tongues unfurling in horrifying slow motion, leaves pinched delicately between peat stained teeth. Joe lunges to late, always to late, and spends golden hour rebuilding barricades around diminished plants that never learn to fear grazers. The sun bleeds crimson across the horizon as he paces newly erected fences, counting posts again, 47 times 40. 7 fingers trailing along with so pristine it might have been lacquered this morning, though he unearthed termite-chewed logs from the inventory just hours ago. Replacements slot themselves into the exact dimensions as their predecessors, seamless, eternal, each swing of the hammer resounding with hollow finality, as if the universe itself pounds acceptance into his genetic code. Some days desperation whispers temptations in the twilight shadows when hunger gnaws or boredom threatens to unravel his programming, reaching out to harvest early just to alter the rhythm of existence. But the crumble of underdeveloped wheat beneath his fingers brings crushing guilt, worse than facing untouched fields empty-handed. Dusk settles, velvety and thick, fireflies pulsing there binary code around the silent homestead. Night after night he sits cross-legged in black soil, moonlight etching silver runes across his open palms, watching stems that never tremble, never grow, waiting for that one anomalous moment when codes might collide, allowing escape from vegetable purgatory. Dust motes dance in shafted moonlight, but Joe remains still, breath since to cricket chirps, time to perfection. He counts the phases Instead, waxing waning full darkness, then repeat no tied to these lunar seasons, just predictable orbit, predictable darkness, predictable nothingness as stars flicker overhead in. Patterns he could trace in permanent marker across his eyelids perhaps. This is the greatness they coded into him this. Relentless patience, this infinite capacity for waiting, watching, shepherding green shoots that mock his vigilance perhaps these endless plant water watch cycles contain. The hidden arithmetic for inner peace, count the posts again 47 times 47 lamp-leads like apologetic metronomes. Rocking against newly fortified fences, he doesn't turn his head, doesn't flinch, simply breathes the pixelated dust of another identical day, knowing tomorrow's dawn will pry his eyes open once more with golden fingers and the wheat in the center of the south. Eastern quadrant will still stand precisely 2 3/4 inches high, the hoe handle smooth against his palm, seats like lead weights in his pouch and the baby. Villager 3 cottages down will surely be trading enchanted diamond swords by supper time, because growth happens everywhere except here in this infinite field where Farmer Joe tends his meditation row by row by and changing row under the great relentless algorithm of the sky, beneath a sky painted in endless gradients of dawn and dusk, stretched in every direction like a patient exhale. Lies our meditation room, a vast expanse of earth meticulously leveled into velveteen flatness, where human intention and nature's surrender meet in perfect symmetry, a digital canvas awaiting mindful cultivation, where the whisper of irrigation channels becomes our mantra and the rhythmic dance of pixelated wheat sways in harmony with our breath step closer. Let your senses blur the line between screen and soul as we embark on a journey where farming transcends harvest quotas and transforms into sacred geometry of the spirit. Imagine fingers not gripping tools, but hovering above keyboards like concert pianists, translating stillness into action. Each keystroke carving tranquil furrows across soil rendered flawless by technology's benevolent hand. This is where perfection meets imperfection in beautiful tension, where straggling clods dissolve beneath digital grace until our fields ripple like undisturbed ponds, mirroring cloud formations so completely that sky and earth become inseparable twins. Welcome to the Zen garden of the modern age, where agricultural precision births visual tranquility, where furrows align with mathematical elegance to soothe the frantic mind. Their parallel lines stretching toward horizons like railroad tracks to nirvana. Can you hear it? The gentle gurgle of water threading through irrigation veins. An ASMR symphony for overstimulated neurons, liquid whispers tickling the edges of your consciousness, telling ancient stories about nourishment and flow as you adjust flow rates with slider bars smooth as polished stone. Notice how each droplet's journey becomes your own meditation object. Glittering trails zigzagging through channels until thought dissolves into pure observation. Now see the scarecrows standing sentinel, not as crude farmers' tools, but as brushstrokes in our living painting. Position them with curator's care at intersections governed by golden ratios. Their outstretched arms framing vistas where crows become mere punctuation marks in our tranquil composition. Breathe in unison with boot-up sequences as tractors hum awake like electronic monks beginning vespers. Their tired treads etching mandalas across soil soon to cradle our patient intention. There's holiness in this preparation phase, an alchemy transforming anxiety into anticipation when every adjusted parameter becomes prayer beats slip through fingertips. Every leveled acre attaining Buddhist sand garden perfection. This is our zazen with plas and pixels, our temple constructed not of wood and incense but topographical maps and pH balance readings glowing soft as candle flames in pre-dawn darkness. Now comes the sacred inhalation planting season as cosmic breath drawn deep into diaphragm. Watch how seed selection becomes act of loving discernment. Each genetic line evaluated not merely for yield but for grace notes. It contributes to our symphony as pneumatic planters exhale kernels into waiting earth with metronome precision. Sync your own breathing to their rhythm. Inhale for 3 rows sown. Exhale for 2. Feeling vertebrae unknot with each pass until tractor cab transforms into meditation cushion. Germination unfurls in slow motion beneath soil's dark blanket. Secret alchemy best witnessed through time. Laughs lenses that reveal divinity in uncurling cotyledons. Here lies your moving meditation fixed gaze upon a single ceiling piercing loam surface like green ballet dancer rising end point. Its tender persistence a masterclass in gentle force. Commit to bonding with one specific stock among millions. Returning daily to note infinitesimal shifts in its posture. Notice how yesterday's dew still clings to its fourth leaf like liquid courage. How morning light gilds its tip with halation effects. No digital filter can replicate this. Humble plant becomes your rosary bead, your own chant. The singular focus that anchors runaway thoughts when distractions threaten to carry your mind into storm clouds gathering on the horizon. Return again and again to your chosen wheat stalk's quiet narrative. It bends but does not break beneath wind's invisible fingers. Sways but holds fast when algorithms send sudden gusts rippling across digital planes. Through repeated observation comes intimacy normally reserved for lifelong friendships. You'll memorize the unique angle at which its awns catch sunset. The microscopic groove along its stem where ladybugs pause their patrols. These become your sacred text, your illuminated manuscript written not in ink but chlorophyll and photosynthesis. Patient months flow like river currents. Tractor wheels become prayer wheels, turning circling seasons. Tendrils push skyward with quiet determination while roots burrow deep into subsoil silence. Unseen mycelial networks humming with fungal chants. Your breathing sinks to vegetative cadences, now long nourishing inhales during fertilizer applications that ghost across fields like mist. Measured exhales as you thin overcrowded patches with precise clicks. Never hurry. This is Tai Chi unfolding in agricultural time where microseconds stretch into lotus blossoms. Monitor growth rings within each stalk's hidden architecture through spectral imaging. Each new layer a tree's meditation on time at dawn when low-angled light transforms fields into monochromatic brushstrokes. Engage in walking meditation down ruler straight. Rose screen scrolling becomes kinhin pacing. Each step measured against tiny progress markers. That seedling you baptized with attention now stands waist high. Bowing politely to trade winds as its kernels fill out like promises. Hover fingertips over grain heads heavy with tomorrow's bread as irrigation sprinklers hits white noise symphony. Sense how each droplet's impact resonates through root networks. How collective thirst becomes singular answered prayer. This is agricultural communion, not statistical achievement, but silent conversation between caregiver and crop, where nitrogen balance sheets dissolve into intuitive knowing. The plants recognize your rhythmic visits, their phototropic leanings subtly tracking your digital footsteps. Don't rush past this relationship. Sit in silence with amber waves rendered in high-definition textures so rich you can almost smell their green. Blood sent through the monitor as pollen drifts lazily across thermal imaging displays like golden static. Let your exhalations match its unhurried journey. This is Zen with dirt beneath its fingernails. Mindfulness expressed through irrigation schedules and micronutrient adjustments entered with feather touch keystrokes. Then a shift in atmospheric pressure. The fields collectively sigh as chlorophyll retreats. Your meditation object signals completion with goldenrod. Transformation here comes harvest not as executioner's blade but as culmination of shared breath gather combines like monastic processionals. Their silvered frames reflecting your own impermanence. Back inhale one last nourishing breath as final shimmering stalks stand. Sentinel exhale slowly as blades descend through decades compressed into harvest rive lines. Hear the hollow rattle of dry stems surrendering. Watch how combine headers swallow whole rows in single gulp. So much temporary beauty sacrificed for nutritional necessity. Golden forest reduced to geometrical stubble. This is where deep wisdom roots. The post-harvest emptiness yawns wide as freshly shorn fields linger in this melancholic satisfaction. Unbroken acres stretch naked beneath autumn skies. Suddenly to expansive your beloved wheat stalk exists now only as memory and metadata. This is the season of looking backward and forward simultaneously. Residue of temporary abundance carpets loam like monk's sandal prints fading on temple stones. There's delicious sorrow here, less wasted emotion than fertile compost for next rotations. Hope steady these bare fields with bodhisattva eyes. They teach that all cultivation cycles mirror human seasons. Growth, fruition, release, fallow embrace the emptiness. Don't rush to fill it with next season's ambitions. Instead, become intimate with stubble patterns left by reaper blades. Evening frost will etch crystalline graffiti across these acres. Temporary art dissolving with dawn's first warmth through field cameras. Listen to field mice navigating truncated landscapes. Their tiny lives adjusted to agricultural cadences. This emptiness isn't void but pregnant. Pause fertility incubating beneath the surface. Each degaussed tractor tire track becomes miniature canyon housing microscopic universes. Resist itching to replant. Practice true patience by marinating in fallow time. Brew tea from Dried wheat flowers harvested months prior sip slowly while contemplating how satisfaction and loss intertwine. Revisit harvest data. Streams not for agronomic analysis, but as meditation on impermanence. Those one sprout yield numbers now merely historical footnotes. Can you release attachment to quantified outcomes while still tending next crop with full devotion? When at last the moon aligns with winter solstice, a blinking cursor in vast cosmic interface seeding begins anew. This act, seemingly repetitive, looms with radical spiritual dimensions. Discard any notion of dull redundancy. Each seed capsule flung into waiting earth becomes deliberate optimism, conscious particle of hope planted against probability. In this moment you bridge past and future, ancestor and descendant, sacred action resonating through agricultural eternity. Feel calluses formed not on fingers but soul as you initiate another cycle. Technology shimmers in service to ancient ritual. Auto steer systems engage with choir-like precision. Planter units drop genetic promise into soil chilled by mortality's breath. Here lies secret magic. You comprehend ephemerality yet cultivate permanence's illusion through rhythmic persistent siege. Replanting courageously defies entropy. Parabolas of grain arcing from hoppers become earth-bound meteor showers. Second chances manifest in every furrow. Embrace beginner's mind, though this marks your 1000th planting. Discover freshness in protocols executed countless times. Marvel at how photons still excite chloroplasts. Watch for that first seedling emergence, not with agronomist's checklist, but child's wide-eyed wonder. Layer upon this agricultural ritual an ambience that seeps into bones. Compose symphonies for every phenological stage during germination. Thread minimalist piano notes through soundscapes where soil shifting sounds blend with distant wind chimes. Pause to appreciate how certain chords vibrate sympathetically with root hairs questing moisture as tillers emerge. Introduce upright bass frequencies mirroring vertical thrust. Time lush orchestral swells to flag leaf extension so violins crest exactly when photosynthesis reaches maximum velocity for ripening phase. Distill melodies into solitary cello lines. Lonely but resolute as combines roll. Weave in percussive elements from nature's own rhythms. The metallic shudder of grain tank slats letting go their burden. The syncopated rasp of straw choppers scattering residue during rain events. Blend precipitation patterns with synthesized tonalities. Digitized raindrops triggering MIDI waterfalls where each droplet plinks corresponding chime. Catch those accidental moments when sprinkler rotations click. Clack in perfect time with background vocals. Savor ASMR treasure when bone meal cascades into spreader bins with granular murmur like beach pebbles retreating from tide post. Harvest introduces silence as instruments stretch rests between notes to mirror fields emptiness when first snow blankets sleeping acres. Let sparse piano keys fall like frost feathers returning to planting. Build compositions around tractor hydraulic sighing that pressurized whisper when plows lift becomes breath. Mark in agricultural symphony. Don't forget the algorithms code generated music reacting in real time to soil moisture telemetry. Parched earth layers summoning didgeridoo. Drones optimum hydration levels conjuring glockenspiel. Glissando's fusio-thermal vibrations with theremin waves pull satellite data streams into celestial choirs. Blend everything always everything shafts of morning light through combine. Cabs transformed into visual sonograms scrolling across monitors. These soundscapes bleed into architecture's design echo chambers where cave reverb mingles with thousand-acre breeze project. Whispered mantras across prairies so words disintegrate into pure vibration felt through tractor. Seeds hang wind harps where GPS transmitters sit. Hat grain bin acoustics so the hum key of D when filled to certain levels. Tune pivot irrigation spans like gigantic string instruments each rotation producing harmonic overtones. Your entire farm becomes Aeolian harpa cheesecloth. Stretch tight between industrial pragmatism and spiritual transcendence. It is birds into participating positions. Sonic lures broadcasting generative insect wing beats to attract swallows whose aerial maneuvers become living treble clefs. Engineer mouse not wiring to emit stochastic glitch melodies. Turn data noise into ambient washes when midnight combines harvest under star streaks. Let their grumbling diesel become meditative drone underpinning satellite transmission. Static process through granular synthesizers. Record and pitch shift. Coyote choruses to weave through dawn's first light. Transformative practice this alchemy of found sound and deliberate composition. Blur boundaries until field recordings and orchestral scores merge into singular immersive tapestry. Precipitation's random percussion becomes Timekeeper helium tanks hissing outside the coffee shop grow into cosmic breath. Know this when shaft dust motes catch afternoon sunbeams like fireflies fizzing towards capture. They're surfing airwaves. You composed rainwater racing down tablet edges mimics tempo of your post-harvest. Nocturnes. The entire agricultural universe conspires to deepen your mindfulness. Each kernel weighed at elevators somehow calibrated to emotional resonance of last season's disappointments. Every automated weather alert ping merges with bell towers marking canonical hours. Allow these layers of sensory input to wash over without grasping. Let combines warm engine block radiate up your spine during chilly dawn. Starts taste dust clouds kicked up during tillage's communion wafer of the plains. This is how pixels bloom into presence, how farming transcends spreadsheet into spiritual practice. The eternal return of seed time and harvest compressed into loop. GIF sets somehow contain multitudes. Your scarecrow sentinels nod sagely as seasons wheel overhead. Data clouds pass as real as cumulus promise. Bearers breathe, hands resting lightly on joystick controls, eyes drinking endless horizon. The meditation continues. Harvest approaches again. Exhale, begin. Imagine this. The sun hangs low over pixelated plains as your avatar kneels in neatly tended soil, planting wheat seeds with methodical clicks. Within seconds, tiny green shoots erupt from the earth like magic, glowing beneath the blocky sun. This is farming distilled to its simplest essence, instant rewards blooming on your screen. Now close your eyes and step outside the digital realm. Feel the weight of real soil crumbling between your fingers. Smell the loamy earth after spring rain. Hear the whisper of countless wheat stalks dancing in an Iowa breeze. Here, that same seed you dropped into Minecraft's dirt with a mere click now demands 90 sunrises and sunsets. Weathering storms and drought, surviving insect invasions and fungal threats before offering its golden reward. Welcome to the dual universe of agricultural parallels, where the seductive simplicity of virtual farming collides with the profound complexities of real-world agriculture. The clock ticks differently in these two worlds. Minecraft's farming mechanics operate on a merciless 30-minute cycle of growth, plant, bone meal, harvest, repeat. It's farming reduced to instant gratification, a dopamine loop dressed in pastoral pixels. Your crops mature before your avatar grows hungry, before night falls, before you've even finished building the stone cottage by the field. But step into an actual wheat field in July, under a sun that feels like molten glass pressing on your shoulders, and time expands in ways the game could never capture. Those 90 days between planting and harvest contain 100 miniature dramas, delicate sprouts fighting through crusted earth, teenage stalks learning to sway without breaking, grain heads swelling with sugars as summer heat bakes the plains. Game designers compress time not out of ignorance, but necessity. Who would play Farming Simulator 2025 if it demanded actual years of their life, yet this temporal sleight of hand creates a generation of players who unconsciously assume agriculture operates at hyperspeed, unaware of the glacial patience real farming requires. Watch the growth stages side by side and something fascinating emerges, the color progression in Minecraft's wheat fields. That shifting palette from vibrant green to golden amber mirrors reality with uncanny precision. Digital wheat matures in 8 distinct visual phases that parallel actual wheat development from tillering to flowering to ripening. There's poetry in how both versions capture that magical moment when green surrenders to gold, nature's universal signal that carbohydrates have transformed into edible treasure. But the comparison falters when wind enters the equation. Minecraft fields stand eternally still, crops frozen like museum exhibits, while real wheat performs an endless ballet, stems bending in synchronized waves, seed heads chattering like 1,000 castanets during a storm. And then there's the invisible warfare games conveniently omit. No virtual aphids cluster beneath your pixelated leaves, no digital fungus creeps across stems, no. Game mechanics simulates the heart-stopping moment a farmer spots the first orange pustule of wheat rust that could destroy an entire harvest. These omissions aren't flaws, but they create a sanitized fantasy where farming is decoration rather than survival. Automation reveals perhaps the starkest divide between these farming realms. Minecraft lets you become an agricultural god with redstone contraptions, water channels that hydrate entire fields with the pull of a lever, piston-powered harvesters that strip crops in seconds. Yet these engineering feats feel quaint compared to the technological cathedral that is modern irrigation. Picture central pivot systems stretching like mechanical gargoyles across the American West, dancing their slow motion pirouettes while pumping precisely 27 gallons per minute onto each thirsty acre. Or drone swarms mapping soil moisture levels over thousands of hectares, algorithms predicting water needs before the farmer feels thirst in her own throat. As for harvesting, your enchanted diamond hoe that clears 3 rows at once can't compete with the roaring majesty of a combine harvester. A 5-story steel locust devouring 40 acres daily, separating grain from chaff with industrial voracity, it's GPS. Guided path straighter than any player's hand could achieve. Most jarring is what automation excludes. Where are Minecraft's crop rotation mechanics? Where's the nitrogen balance minigame, the soil exhaustion mechanics, the consequences of monocropping? Virtual farming skips the ecological cost accounting that keeps real farmers awake at night. Paradoxically, the very limitations of virtual farming teach unexpected virtues. When you plant a Minecraft field knowing you must wait even if just 30 minutes rather than instantly bone meal it to maturity, you're practicing a primitive form of agricultural patience. That humble act of resisting the easy growth button mirrors the discipline real farmers cultivate across decades, the ability to find beauty in uneventful routines, to watch progress unfold at biology's stubborn pace. There's a meditative quality to tending digital crops between adventures, a rhythm not unlike actual farmers walking their fields at dawn, fingers brushing the tops of swelling grain heads, silently willing them to fill just a little more before harvest. Both worlds reward those who understand that not all growth is explosive, that sometimes progress looks identical from day to day until suddenly everything ripens at once. Players complain that waiting for crops feels like watching paint dry, but real farmers could tell you about entire seasons that feel like watching grass grow, until the moment amber waves transform into food, fuel, and fiber that feeds nations. Between these two agricultural experiences lies a fertile middle ground. Minecraft's farming oversimplifies reality, but captures its visual essence, like an impressionist painting of Provence lavender fields. Real agriculture demands respect for chaos, drought cracking fields into geometric puzzles, hailstorms shredding crops in minutes, markets swinging fortunes based on weather reports from Ukraine or Australia. Yet for all its sanitized predictability, virtual farming plants seeds of understanding. When a generation raised on pixelated wheat sees golden fields rippling beneath a harvest moon, they recognize the color transition, understand the basic vocabulary of growth stages. Game designers have become unwitting agricultural educators, sneaking botany lessons into blocky landscapes. Perhaps the greatest parallel isn't in the mechanics, but in the human response. That quiet satisfaction when your hands real or virtual have cooperated with earth and weather to create nourishment. Whether you're closing Minecraft after a successful harvest day or driving combine headlights through dusty twilight, the feeling echoes. I helped make this happen. The scale differs enormously, but the human pride in cultivation remains, so next time you plant virtual seeds, let yourself imagine the smell of real wheat at dusk, that honeyed, dusty perfume drifting over 1,000 acres. Let your game controller become, for just a moment, the steering wheel of a tractor rumbling towards harvest. And whether your farm exists in silicon or soil, remember that all agriculture is ultimately an act of faith that effort plus time plus elements you can't control might still equal growth. Imagine stepping into a time machine built from cobblestone and memories. Dialing back to an era when Minecraft's skies felt newly generated and every block held secrets yet undiscovered. This is where our story begins, not in some distant digital future, but in the soft golden glow of alpha, when wheat was not yet king but a humble experiment sprouting through virtual soil. Picture those first crops, tentative green shoots pushing through tilled earth in a world without hunger, without complex economies, where farming felt less like survival and more like quiet communion with the land. Back then, growth cycles flickered like fireflies random, unpredictable, trembling between mere minutes and maddening hours as developers tinkered with the heartbeat of the game itself. There was magic in that simplicity, wasn't there? The gentle crinkle of turning soil under a wooden hoe, the satisfying asterisk pop asterisk of seeds released from tall grass clutched in pixelated hands, the patient vigil as you watch those tender stalks inch toward maturity under blocky sunlight. No urgency. No meters to fill, just you and the earth, learning each other's rhythms in those endless golden hours before hunger rewrote the rules of survival. But change, like creepers in tall grass, came silently and exploded the familiar. Enter asterisk the Great Hunger Update asterisk, a tectonic shift that transformed wheat from decorative indulgence to lifeline. Suddenly those amber waves weren't just pretty backdrop. They were currency, medicine, the difference between sprinting toward adventure and limping home drained. Fields expanded overnight, transforming biomes into patchwork quilts of farmland as players scrambled to secure their bread baskets. Villagers, once passive decorations roaming cobblestone paths, awakened as agricultural partners, their stubby arms tossing seeds with metronomic precision, their comical large-headed silhouettes bending over crops like overeager scarecrows. And oh, the inventions that bloomed from necessity. Redstone wizards conjured contraptions that hummed and chittered, automated farms with pistons thumping like mechanical hearts, water channels flushing ripe wheat into waiting chests in hypnotic cycles. Seeds became gold precious, scrounged for treasures fueling these clanking marvels, turning what was once discarded chaff into the engine of progress. Wheat wasn't just food anymore. It became asterisk power asterisk, woven into the very circuitry of advancement. Yet for every leap forward, growth came with, well, asterisk growing pains asterisk. Remember the update that made crops freeze mid-sprout, leaving fields stranded in perpetual adolescence unless bathed in the exact center of a chunk? Or the infamous bone meal rebellion when an overenthusiastic tweak turned bone dust into agricultural nitrous, rocketing wheat from seed to harvest in seconds flat only to have it nerfed days later, sending farmers into collective mourning for their lost speed. The community became detectives, forensic agriculturalists dissecting patch notes for clues, swapping conspiracy theories about hidden growth algorithms over flickering lantern light. Myths sprouted like weeds. Asterisk, does moon phase matter? Asterisk, asterisk, will my wheat grow faster if I play it classical music? Asterisk, some updates unified the fragmented kingdoms of Code Bedrock and Java growers, finally sensing their harvest dances while others spawn chaos, turning trusted farm designs into relics overnight. Through it all, players adapted, stubborn as dandelions cracking through stone, turning glitches into features and bugs into beloved quirks. Now we stand at the edge of tomorrow's unplanted fields, squinting toward horizons lit by Mojang's cryptic teasers. What wonders might take root? Perhaps smarter crops that whisper their needs-thirsty roots quivering when hydration dips, leaves drooping theatrically for fertilizer. Maybe vertical farms stacking emerald green toward build limits, or symbiotic plantings where wheat sways protectively over carrots like big botanical siblings. Beyond vanilla's fences, modders are already tinkering with nature's clock genetic modification benches, splicing hyperspeed wheat that glows nuclear green, harvesters with robotic arms plucking grain with surgical precision. Yet amidst this brave new world, whispers rise a yearning for calloused hands in warm soil, for the meditative patience of watching each growth stage inch skyward. Because isn't there still magic in that original slow unfurling? The breath held as the final stalk reaches maturity. The cathartic sweep of the hand reaping what weeks or minutes of care have sown. As our time machine whirs back to the present, wheat sways in the breeze no longer just a crop, but living history carved in pixels. So plant your seeds, dear farmer, and watch close. Every golden ear holds 10,000 stories, and the next chapter's roots are already stretching toward the light. Close your eyes and let your ears drift across these endless fields where the earth breathes in low, crumbly whispers beneath your fingertips. Can you feel that? The soft collapse of soil turning under an invisible hoe, every granule tumbling against its neighbor in a slow-motion avalanche that resonates deep in your jaw. This is the world where sound becomes touch, where darkness becomes texture, and where time stretches like golden wheat beneath an endless sunset. Welcome to a farm untouched by hurry, cradled in the hum of cicadas and the papery rustle of mature stalks swaying like a million sleepwalkers in the breeze. Listen closer now to the symphony of dirt. That's the first tilling of dawn, captured by microphones buried in the loam, amplifying the intimate conversation between root and rock, the gritty inhale and exhale of the land waking. Each scoop lifts and falls with the weight of wet chocolate cake crumbling. The section of mud releasing tools with soft asterisk whip sounds that tickle the back of your teeth. Now the wheat enters the chorus stalks heavy with grain, bending under their own ripeness, until they snap with a sound like distant firecrackers wrapped in velvet, a dry crackle that starts at your temples and travels down your spine like dribbling sand. Stay here a moment, letting those brittle notes dissolve into the hollow silence between gusts of wind. While somewhere beyond the far fence-lined water murmurs not a river, not a brook, just a ghost of irrigation, looping endlessly through hidden pipes and troughs. Sometimes it gurgles like a contented stomach, sometimes drips with metallic precision against a rusted bucket, sometimes fades into vapor-thin white noise that hangs in the air like morning mist over dew-laced grass. Open your eyes, but only halfway. Let your last filter the light as we crawl into the visual world grain by grain. Watch this patch of dirt transform under time-lapse hypnosis. Earthworms wriggling through pixelated soil like living calligraphy, seeds splitting open in stop-motion explosions of pale roots questing downward. Focus now on the greens, not just green, but the shy chartreuse of first sprouts, the polished jade of adolescence, the tired olive of leaves curling at the edges under autumn's gaze. Our camera lingers obsessively on gradients, zooming until a single blade becomes a ragged mountain range backlit by dying sunlight, veins bulging with slow chlorophyll rivers. The sky darkens imperceptibly, a sliding scale from cornflower to indigo, and when lightning cracks the horizon at midnight, it doesn't thunder. It just flash freezes the landscape for one blue-white heartbeat, illuminating rows upon rows of wheat standing at attention like silent soldiers, their shadows stitched to the earth by threads of rain. The screen flickers almost apologetically before dissolving back into starless blackness. Perhaps you imagined it, but your retina still glows with the afterimage of those electrified stems. Our narrator's voice arrives like a spoon dipping into honey flow, deliberate, each syllable matching the unhurried creep of shadows across noon fields. They speak at the exact speed wheat grows, perhaps 3 words per minute, with pauses so wide you could drive a combine harvester through them. Look at the way the light clings to the lower leaves. They murmur, stretching each vowel until it frays into a sigh. Blink just once. That sluggish descent of your eyelid lasts precisely 1 crop. Growth cycle in our farm time. When you lift it again, the seedlings have thickened microscopically, angling toward the cloud-smudged sun. Another blink sinks, with fertilizer pellets bouncing off dry soil, rolling into ditches as the automatic spreader groans somewhere off-screen. A malfunction. The narrator's yawn syncs perfectly with the machine's wheezing sigh, a sound felt more in your diaphragm than your ears, deep and vibrating like cellar doors closing. Let your own breath harmonize, shoulders sinking as failure becomes ambient texture, another layer in our tapestry of almost silence. Now night falls in earnest, prowling the edges of the screen with pixelated stars. This is when we cultivate dreams. Count along with me, one whispering wheat stalk at a time, their silhouettes trembling in the wind like feather pens scratching on parchment. 43, 44, no sheep here, just slender stems swaying, each rustle a whispered number, soothing the arithmetic of insomnia. Beneath the count, a melody hums, not quite a tune, but something familiar, half remembered from pixelated pastures where blocky sheep grazed under cube-shaped suns. Minecraft's sweetened track emerges note by note, played on a detuned music box muffled under layers of burlap, the nostalgia of simpler farms, safer farms, where the worst threat was the burbling approach of hush now. Beyond the fence, something groans low, hollow, but before tension can knot your shoulders. Hay bales avalanche softly in the barn, their dry tumble swallowing the zombies moan in a scratchy, stunning embrace. The straw scent almost reaches you through the screen, almost golden and dusty, the auditory equivalent of sinking barefoot into a hayloft. Deeper into the night we drift, the screen now a monochrome study in charcoal and silver. The combine sleeps, its blades still glinting with phantom harvests, will field my skitter between stubbled rows, their tiny paws raising static-like whispers against the soundtrack. Your focus blurs screen and room merging as your hand unconsciously moves to mimic sifting through grain, fingertips tingling with imagined textures. A single dandelion puff trembles in the foreground, holding its breath until there an impossible breeze from nowhere carries it into the black beyond the frame, scattering seeds like pixels into the abyss. The narrator's voice fades with it, surrendering to the creak of windmill blades and the planet's own slow rotation beneath our feet. Your watch ticks somewhere, or is it the drip 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 from the broken trough returning? Time stretches, sags, pulls around you, invisible cobwebs clinging to your skin as the farm exhales one final dusty sigh against the microphone and dissolves into the hum of your own appliances, the distant sirens of your world, the soft click of a sleepless neighbor's lamp, but the wheat remains, whispering, still in the private theater beneath your closed eyelids. The sun hasn't yet crested the horizon, but the world is already awake with the soft hum of possibility. Today, we embark on a quiet vigil, a patient watch over one of Minecraft's simplest yet most profound miracles, the growth of wheat. To witness it in real time is to step into a meditation, a dance with the game's hidden heartbeat. And as we settle into this serene observation, let's begin by preparing the perfect stage for our star performer. Picture a stretch of untouched earth, raw and stubborn, its surface baked by countless days under a digital sunbook. With a swing of the hoe, the soil yields, breaking apart into fertile darkness with a muffled thump, the sound as grounding as the crunch of autumn leaves underfoot. Water is the silent architect here, the unseen hand guiding life upward. And so we dig gentle channels, letting liquid blue seep into the earth, each block of farmland drinking deeply until it darkens like rain-soaked chocolate, glistening under the first pale light of dawn. This isn't just earth, its potential incarnate, hydrated and humming with readiness, daring us to place the first seed. And what seeds they are: tiny, unassuming spikes plucked from tall grasses swaying in the breeze, each one a promise folded into a fleck of green. The sound as you plant them is soft, a muted asterisk plink asterisk as they nestle into the soil, vanishing from sight as if swallowed by the earth itself. But this disappearance is an illusion. Beneath the surface, energy stirs. Now the waiting begins, but even in stillness, there is beauty. The first growth stage emerges with almost apologetic subtlety. A pale green sprout, no taller than a fingernail's width, pushes through the soil in a delicate animation, a shy greeting to the world. It's a humble start, one easily missed if you blink, but for those who watch closely, it sparks a flicker of anticipation. Days pass in-game, the sun arcing across the sky in its tireless loop, moonlight painting the fields silver. Yet to our eyes, the field remains stubbornly unchanged. This is the test of patience that farming whispers to us. Growth is not a spectacle, but a secret. It unfolds in the shadows of random ticks, elusive moments when the game's code whispers asterisk now asterisk, and only then does the next chapter reveal itself. The stalks rise almost imperceptibly, each stage adding a fraction of height, a suggestion of form like watching the hour hand of a clock. The green deepens, shifting from the bright lime of youth to richer, more mature tones, as if the plants are gathering confidence under the sun's nurturing gaze. There's a rhythm here, a slow, stretching yawn of progress. It's in the way the wheat sways ever so slightly during a breeze, or how the light catches the edges of the leaves just before dusk. But the true magic is in the rarity, the infrequency of these changes. You might spend minutes pacing the field, tending to other tasks, glancing back only to find the wheat frozen in time. Yet when that random tick finally comes, when the code decides the moment is right, the jump is abrupt, a sudden leap in height, a pop of color, a tiny victory in the silence. It feels personal, as if the game chose to reward your watchful eye with a private show, a fleeting gift for those diligent enough to stay present. You learn to lean into the stillness, to find comfort in the lack of urgency, to appreciate the way the light slants across the field in golden hour, turning the stalks into emerald spheres tipped with fire. And then suddenly, it happens. After 20, perhaps 30 minutes of real-time span measured not in seconds, but in breaths, in blinks, in the slow unfurling of your own focus, the wheat stands tall, crowned with golden seed heads that bob lazily in the breeze. It's the culmination of all that waiting. All that quiet hoping, yet the moment of harvest is disarmingly simple. Your hand reaches out, the tool connects, and with a soft rustle, the crop shatters, scattering seeds and wheat like confetti. There's no fanfare. No triumphant music, just the whisper of falling stalks and the gentle asterisk, clink asterisk of bounty hitting the ground. You gather it all, the seeds cool in your palm, the wheat stalks smelling of summer dust, and without hesitation, you bend to replant, pressing each seed back into the earth. The cycle begins anew, the dance unbroken, the field already humming with the promise of another slow, beautiful ascent. In this endless loop of planting and waiting, breaking and rebuilding, there's a lesson about time itself, how richness isn't always in haste, but in the spaces between. In the stillness where growth hides, patient and quiet and utterly sublime. So let the world rush past. Here in this field, time moves like honey, slow, golden, and sweet, and every random tick, every subtle shift in green, is a reminder that some wonders only unfold when we dare to sit still, to watch, and to listen. Imagine this. You've spent hours tilling rich soil under the open sky, carving perfect rows through the earth, nestling each wheat seed with care while the gentle lapping of your irrigation channel promises life. You step back, admiring your handiwork. This will be a bountiful harvest, enough to feed a village or breed a whole flock of sheep. But days later, upon returning with dreams of golden fields swaying in the breeze, you're met with stubborn little green stalks, barely taller than when you left them. Why? What invisible forces conspire to hold your crops hostage in this agonizing limbo? What arcane rules govern the silent, sluggish dance of wheat in Minecraft? Let me tell you the untold story, not of grand adventures or redstone marvels, but of soil, sunlight, and a game engine's mysterious heartbeat. The journey begins deep in the code, where wheat wears its needs like a fragile contract. Light level 9 or higher, a deceptively simple demand. Step into the shade of a nearby tree, or let night fall without torches to pierce the gloom, and growth grinds to a halt. But even with perfect conditions, your crops whisper secrets about a hidden dependency: water. Not just any water, but liquid touching the soil itself, or hydrating it through dirt blocks like veins carrying life. One block missing in your irrigation grid, one dry corner forgotten in your field design, and those stalks become prisoners of thirst, their progress locked away. Worse still, your presence is the key. Venture too far, explore caves or distant biomes, and unless your farm sits in a chunk kept awake by commands or infrastructure, it slips into stasis, frozen in time, trapped in a lonely pocket of the world where growth is a myth until you return. The cruelest joke, even when you stand vigil, watching your crops under the midday sun. Their progress hangs on a dice roll disguised as asterisk random ticks, asterisk a mathematical gamble where every moment pulses with potential. Each second a rare chance for the game's engine to whisper, asterisk, grow asterisk. It's like waiting for a sleepy villager to restock their trades. You know it asterisk could asterisk happen any second, but ours drift by in quiet agony. Desperate for speed, you reach into your inventory, clutching bone meal, the universal shortcut, the alchemist's powder promising instant gratification. You sprinkle it over a hopeful sprout, and at first, the magic seems undeniable. Green particles erupt, the stalk shivers, stretches upward, only to freeze again, having lurched forward just asterisk one measly stage asterisk, another bone meal, another tiny leap. 5 times always 5 to coax a single wheat plant from seed to harvest, gobbling 8 bones worth of precious powder for this pathetic pace. Compare it to beetroot, that overachiever leaping to maturity in 3 quick feeds, or kelp thriving underwater with wild, bone meal-fueled abandon, and wheat feels like a relic, stubbornly clinging to its glacial tempo. This is the betrayal deep in the code and arbitrary cap, a developer's whimsy telling your impatience no. Frustrated, you turn to geometry, convinced the answer lies in careful spacing. Perhaps overcrowding chokes your crops. You meticulously redesign alternate rows left empty, each plant given wide, luxurious breathing room. You time it, document it, comparing against dense flocks of crowded wheat under identical light and water. Days pass, you measure growth ticks, count yields, squint at spreadsheets, only to uncover another cruel truth. The difference is negligible. Those empty rows, wasted real estate. Dense fields might even edge ahead not because they thrive, but because more plants equals more lottery tickets for the same rare growth ticks. Efficiency, it seems, bows to brutality. More crops mean more chances, not better care. The perfect farm design dissolves into myth, leaving you with vast, identical plots where optimization feels like chasing phantom rumors. All paths point back to Minecraft's most cryptic mechanic, the asterisk, asterisk, random tick speed, asterisk, asterisk. Picture it like this. Every game tech. Invisible dice roll across loaded chunks, and maybe one block in every 65,536 gets chosen for a random update. Trees decay, fire spreads, and crops grow. Normally set to asterisk 3 asterisk per subchunk per tick. Unless altered by server commands, your wheat exists in this agonizing slot machine. You stand there, documenting growth over 30-minute stretches, watching for increments as subtle as a pixel shift. A farmer patiently tending their fields in real time sees days pass before germination becomes visible. Bed skipping nights, an illusion of progress, for darkness doesn't kill growth light. Level does. By the unforgiving logic of random ticks, days skipped just mean fewer dice rolls, not more. You might as well stare at the stalks while time bleeds away, hoping today is the day the engine spins in your favor. So what's the solution? Patience, persistence, and overwhelming numbers. Build vast, torchlit grids drowning in waterlogged soil, plant asterisk hundreds asterisk of seeds. Let raw probability work in bulk. Automation helps observer-triggered harvesters snagging grain the moment it ripens, triggering replanting. Optimize not for speed per plant, but scale. Let drowning farmland stretch to the horizon. Accept the game's hidden rhythms. For wheat grows slow by design, by code, by the cold math of random chance, but in embracing that truth, you conquer it. So go on, till that soil, lay those water channels. Accept the wait. Or turn to pumpkins. The first sliver of dawn paints the sky in clumsy streaks of peach and lilac, same as it did yesterday and the 1,000 yesterdays before that, stretching back to when the world itself was younger, or so they say. Back when the 2011 update first planted me here in these fields with this hoe and this hat and this eternal obligation. My stiff joints crack like dry twigs as I push open the cottage door that never truly latches properly, hinges groaning a familiar protest. The air smells of dew, damp soil, and something deeper beneath it, the scent of unfinished code perhaps, or maybe just the ghost of last season's harvest clinging stubbornly to the earth. My boots sink into the same mud patterns they carved yesterday, following the precise path etched into my existence. Left past the crooked fence post. Right to avoid the gnarled root the world generator forgot to smooth out. Straight toward the field where tomorrow's wheat already knows it will be nothing more than today's wheat. Reborn, my fingers move without permission. Tugging seed packets from my apron pocket, same pocket. Same seeds, same motion, and scattering them over soil that never changes. There's an art to this monotony. The wrist flick that sends grains arcing just so. The metronome rhythm of step, scatter, step. Scatter that syncs with my slow heartbeat. I sometimes count the seeds aloud, 123 per row. Always but the numbers dissolve before they leave my lips. Reset each dawn like raindrops evaporating off a salmon's back. Beyond the fence, the village stirs. Blacksmith's hammer clanging, cart wheels creaking, babies that arrived swaddled in mossy cobblestone last Tuesday already tottering into adolescence on unsteady blocky legs. I watched little Nora today, her braids swinging as she chases a chicken across the commons. She be trading emeralds for enchanted books by next week, her childhood swallowed whole by the village's restless clock. But the wheat. The wheat takes exactly 1,296,000 heartbeats to mature, not one less. My shadow shrinks beneath the midday sun as I lean against a fence post, the seventh one from the northwest corner. Slightly greener than the others where lichen clings, and count the wooden stakes stretching toward the horizon. 38, always 38. Even when a zombie shambles through in the dead of night and splinters one to kindling beneath its rotten feet, dawn finds it restored, identical down to the knot at eye level, shaped like Herobrine's faint smile. I run my thumbnail over that knot now, my other hand hovering above the swaying stalks that refuse to blush gold before their time. Rain begins its illusion then, fat pixelated drops plinking against my hat brim, soaking the earth, triggering the satisfied asterisk slop asterisk of thirsty roots drinking deep for a heartbeat. Hope flickers a stupid, stubborn ember as if this rainfall might be different, might make the wheat surge upwards like those magic beans from a bedtime story long forgotten. But no, the stalks shiver, droplets catching light like tiny coins, and remain stubbornly, endlessly green. Chaos erupts just past the eastern fence around noon, zombies lurching from the forest in that jerky, disjointed way they have, moans harmonizing with the frantic clangor of the village bell. I don't run. Don't grab the iron sword gathering dust above my hearth. Instead, I shuffle sideways into the pumpkin patch, curling awkwardly behind the swollen orange curve of a gourd as undead feet stumble past my fields. They never look at me, those monsters, their vacant eyes fixed instead on the glowing windows of the village bakery. The meaty thump of villager flesh, far more tempting than bland farmer bones. But their boots trample crop rows with dreadful precision. When the chaos fades, sun burning away the last tendrils of fog, zombie limbs dissolving into smoke, I emerge to survey the damage. 8 stalks crushed. 12 trampled, the earth puckers where their claws drag through soil. Yet already, I see the pixels knitting themselves back together, stems straightening minute by minute, leaves uncurling like fists learning to let go. By nightfall, only I will remember the destruction. The sheep arrive at the worst possible hour. Always when the seedlings are most vulnerable, those fragile tufts of green no thicker than a kitten's whisker pushing through the dirt. I hear the bell first, that lazy asterisk clunk clunk asterisk dangling from Mabel's woolly neck, followed by the muffled bleats as the flock spills through the gap in the fence I swore I'd fixed yesterday. They move like clouds come to life, drifting aimlessly through my carefully plotted rows, oblivious to borders and boundaries. My pulse kicks up a sluggish imitation of panic as Mabel's damp nose lowers toward a cluster of sprouts. No, I rasp, waving my arms in a dance that's half ritual, half desperation, not the northeast quadrant. Third row down, but her jaws chomp empty air, teeth shearing seedlings into oblivion before I can scoop her woolly bulk away. The others follow, trampling, munching, reducing hours of planting to dirtied hoofprints. I spend the dying light of the afternoon wrestling fence posts into place, splinters embedding themselves beneath my fingernails as I reconstruct barriers mangled by sheep and skeletons and whatever other forces the night coughs up. It's futile, of course. Tomorrow brings fresh gaps, fresh wandering sheep, fresh seedling casualties. But the rhythm of hammer meeting would soothe something fractured inside me, the steady asterisk, whack whack asterisk of the mallet echoing the heartbeat of this unyielding land. When the final post stands upright, gleaming with unnatural symmetry under the setting sun, I kneel to salvage what I can. Cupping a half-crushed sprout in my dirt-stained palms, I breathe warmth onto its limp leaves, willing it to rally. It's still winking green on the status bar, still teetering on the edge of viability. Grow, I whisper, pressing it gently back into the earth, not for me do it for spite. There's a special agony in harvesting too soon. One moment of distraction, a particularly vivid sunset bleeding across the sky, maybe. Or the haunting echo of an enderman's warble, and the sickle descends too eagerly, slicing through stalks, still blushing jade instead of gold. The sickly asterisk squatch asterisk of unripe wheat rasping against the blade lingers in my ears longer than any zombie moan. Harvested too early, the grains crumble like dust when I rub them between my fingers, useless for bread or trade or anything but regret. Villagers chuckle when I drop them into the composter, their noses crinkling at my carelessness. Patience, Farmer Joe, the librarian chides, turning another page of a book he's had memorized since beta. Easy for him to say his words stay written, my mistakes mulch into bone meal, tossed onto flower beds to bloom tomorrow's poppies. Moonlight bleeds the color from the world as night deepens, transforming crops into a monochrome sea swaying under star-flecked skies. This is when the illusions come thickest, shadows lengthening into phantom farmhands, fireflies masquerading as willow, wisps leading fields to grow faster if only I follow. Some nights, I swear the wheat quivers silver and full beneath the moon's gaze, but dawn reveals the stalks unchanged, stubbornly adolescent. I sit cross-legged in the dirt, back pressed against my stubborn cart, refusing to decay with time, and count growth stages like prayers. 1, 2, almost 3, no, still to and a quarter. Always almost there. Excitement sparks rare and dangerous like the night I spilled lantern oil chasing what I thought was a golden glow pestilent between the leaves. Burn 3 rose to ash before the rain came. Now I wait, watch, breathe in the cold air that tastes faintly of copper and candle wax. Listen to the distant hiss of creepers plotting against stone walls that never truly crumble. This is how slowly I unravel, incrementally, imperceptibly, the way wheat absorbs sunlight, one invisible photon at a time. The village around me evolves, new roofs sprouting, paths cobbled smoother. Armor stands gleaming by doorways while my fields remain stubbornly locked in their 1,296,000 heartbeat cycle. But somewhere between reshuffling fence posts and rescuing sprouts from defeated sheep, I've unearthed a strange piece. This isn't stagnation, it's synchronization. The harvest will never surprise me, never exceed my expectations, never transform into diamonds or dragon eggs overnight. But it won't fail me either. It bends only to the sun, the rain, and my own two hands moving through motions carved by algorithmic gods. So let the villagers rush toward their next trade. Let adventurers plunge into nether portals screaming about blaze rods and fortresses. My purpose is found here, in the scrape of hoe against immutable earth, in the whisper of barley sheaves in a wine that smells eternally of possibility juiced out. Of reach, the sun will rise again, peach and lilac over soil that remembers nothing. And I will be here sowing ghosts into every furrow, Farmer Joe, meditating upon wheat that grows exactly as slowly, predictably, perfectly as forever demands. Imagine standing at the edge of infinity where the horizon dissolves into a canvas of serene geometry. This is where our mindful farming journey begins, as your boots sink slightly into the freshly tilled earth, releasing the deep loamy scent of possibility beneath your feet. The perfectly aligned furrows stretch before you like nature's own mandala, each line meticulously carved not merely for efficiency, but as an invitation to visual harmony, an agrarian meditation circle where every contour whispers intentionality. Listen closely now to the water's gentle pilgrimage through irrigation channels that glisten under the morning sun. A liquid murmur that transforms into nature's original ASMR experience, the rhythmic sluicing between banks creating patterns both oral and hypnotic. These waterways become your labyrinth, guiding your awareness inward, while the occasional drip drop from wooden troughs plays counterpoint to the symphony. And then the scarecrows. Oh, the scarecrows. Those silent sentinels positioned not just as guards, but as elements in a living oil painting, their straw hats tilting at precise complementary angles, arms outstretched in choreographed balance against the vast golden tapestry. They stand as proofs of beauty's necessity in utility, their shadows lengthening like sundials, marking the passage of contemplative hours here in this flat symmetrical sanctuary. The world simplifies into furrows and sky, a breathing exercise written in topsoil where you shed urban cacophony like extra layers of. Clothing as your first mindful breath merges with the planting ritual. Feel the seed sack's rough burlap texture beneath your fingertips, each kernel slipping away like amber beads from a broken necklace. This inhalation phase syncs perfectly with burial, every thrust of your hand into the welcoming earth time to the expansion of your diaphragm, the musty perfume of damp soil rising to meet you. Each seed committed becomes a pact with the unseen, a tiny vessel of sunlight to come carrying within its shell the entire universe's patience. Now notice that singular stalk. Choose one fragile green finger piercing the soil. Focus until its trembling form fills your consciousness, this solitary wheat spear becoming your breath's visual anchor. See how it bends but doesn't break in the breeze, how morning dew jewels its length, how each day adds another segment to its green ladder. You'll return to this very stalk daily, like visiting a silent teacher, documenting its gradual unfurling from emerald shoot to proud stem crowned with nascent grains. Through repetition comes revelation. What seemed identical reveals unique personalities. The shy one growing slightly leftward, the bold specimen stretching higher than its siblings, the survivor thriving where others struggle, forming intimate bonds that transcend typical farmer-crop relations. These green companions become markers of your inner landscape, their growth reflecting back your own capacity for stillness. Like Tibetan monks memorizing mandalas, grain by grain you internalize these field patterns until closing your eyes replace perfect rows across your mental eyelids. When gold overtakes green, signaling the exhalation phase, the combine harvesters advance as mechanical choir singers, their blades humming psalms of culmination. This metallic exhale releases stored sunlight in granulated form, yet simultaneously creates absence where fullness reigned, where amber waves once rippled. No stretch bare fields exhaling plumes of sunset colored dust. This emptiness holds profound teachings. Witness how the landscape mirrors autumn trees releasing leaves, how the satisfied fullness of silos coexists with fields now achingly vacant. This is digital agriculture's deepest wabi sabi truth. Crops existing in temporary perfection, their pixels or husks equally fleeting. The post-terrace melancholy you feel isn't lost, but the universe whispering through stubble about cyclical grace, about how completion necessitates emptiness to make space for genesis again. And so the sacred cycle continues as your calloused hands plunge once more into the earth, scattering seeds against winter's chill. This act an unshakable votive candle of hope, planting not just wheat but trust in tomorrow's sunlight, a contract signed with the horizon promising your return throughout this agrarian meditation. The soundscape deepens your trance, sensing perfectly with growth's invisible pulse. The background music swells imperceptibly, aligning with photosynthesis speed, whole symphonies unfolding between sunrise and dew point. Rainfall enters the composition, not as storms but as tapping fingers on broadleaf, syncopated randomness that morphs into rhythm. Ancient echoes from imagined caverns blend with real time wheat rustle animations, creating sonic liminal spaces where nature's algorithms dance. Occasionally the sharp percussion of bone meal clicks pierces the ambience, those satisfying digital cracks signaling accelerated growth, their punctuation marks in the agricultural sentence, drawing your focus back like meditation bells. All coalesces into an auditory river, carrying you deeper where time stretches languid as late afternoon shadows across furrows. The scarecrows sway their tattered sleeves, conducting this organic orchestra while irrigation channels keep the percussion section hydrated. Even crows contribute improvisational jazz riffs, their dark notes etching contrast against golden soundscapes. You realize silence here isn't absence but fullness, the thick quiet between cricket chirps, the pause between wind gusts that somehow contains the entire field's respiration. Coming full circle now as seasonal wheel turns yet again, you stand renewed at the field's edge where preparation meets memory. The symmetrical rows you carved 6 moons ago birthed amber, then emptiness, now cradle nascent green once more. This is the Zen paradox. Meticulous planning yielding surrender, patience as active verb not passive state. Through endless replanting you've discovered agriculture's heartbeat lies not in harvest's climax but in these interstitial moments, the quiet bravery of sprouting seeds, the surrender of plowed earth, the contemplative space between emergence and completion where true growth resides. The farmers become breathing fields, lungs expanding with chlorophyll, dreams exhaling grain-shaped sunlight. This is where digital meets dirt, where spreadsheets and soil share sacred ground, technology serving age old rhythms rather than disrupting them. Each agricultural cycle mirrors meditation's return to breath, coming back countless times to witness layer unfold. A cross layer, you needn't sit cross-legged to find enlightenment. Sometimes the purest mindfulness wears work boots, leaves dirt crescents. Under fingernails chases the horizon, where perfect symmetry meets imperfect growth, ricocheting between control and surrender until they merge into single truth carried on the wind through. Rustling wheat louder than any mantra, imagine plunging your hands into rich dark soil under a blazing summer. Sun, sweat trickling down your neck as you plant each seed with care, knowing you'll wait 3 long months before seeing golden wheat swaying in the breeze. Now contrast that with clicking a mouse in a pixelated world where sunlight magically transforms seedlings into harvest. Ready crops in less time than it takes to microwave popcorn. Welcome to the surreal crossroads where Minecraft's agricultural fantasy collides with the gritty reality of dirt-tender fingernails farming. A juxtaposition that reveals profound truths about our relationship with growth, time, and the very rhythm of life itself. Let's wander together through these parallel fields, one bathed in digital twilight, the other under the relentless march of seasons, as we unearth how virtual farming holds up a funhouse mirror to a profession as old as civilization. Picture this. Your avatar cheerfully scatters wheat seeds across damp Minecraft soil near a babbling pixel stream, the satisfying asterisk pop asterisk of each planted seed echoing through your headphones. Your fingers drum impatiently on the desk 30 minutes. That's all it takes before those tiny green shoots erupt into golden stalks ready for harvest. A time span shorter than a lunch break, compressed into moments through the magic of gameplay convenience. Now shift your gaze to the amber waves of Kansas wheat fields in midsummer, where farmer Jacob walks his land daily, boots crunching on dry earth, watching for the exact moment when chlorophyll retreats from the stalks and grants them that perfect sun kiss to you. For him, planting in April means harvesting in July. 90 sunrises and sunsets, each day a gamble against hailstorms, droughts, or sudden plagues of locusts darkening the horizon like biblical omens. This temporal schizophrenia defines modern farming. Games they feed our craving for instant satisfaction while erasing the visceral suspense real farmers endure. That nail-biting limbo between sowing and reaping, where entire livelihoods hang in the balance. Game designers slice reality into digestible bites, turn years into minutes, turn backbreaking labor into whimsical mini-games. But something vital gets lost in this compression, the thrumming heartbeat of anticipation that makes the final harvest taste so sweet. Yet for all this temporal trickery, Minecraft's wheat stages hold eerie echoes of reality when placed side by side with time-lapse footage of actual wheat maturation. Consider those initial sprouts, fragile green tendrils piercing the game's blocky earth, mirroring real seedlings' first brave push through topsoil after spring rains. Then comes the adolescent phase, where stalks gain height but remain stubbornly green, both in-game and in Nebraska fields. Chlorophyll working overtime to convert sunlight into life force. Finally, the glorious golden universal hue signaling ripeness across dimensions, whether pixels or prairie. But here the parallels fray like weathered burlap. Minecraft's crops stand frozen between growth phases and less trampled, while real wheat battles invisible enemies, fungi creeping through root systems during wet springs, aphids sucking sap from stems, summer winds flattening whole acres like God's careless footsteps. There's no code for desperation in Minecraft, no animation for a farmer kneeling in mud, inspecting blackened sprouts after an unseasonal frost. No sound effect for the rasp of a whetstone against scythe dawn before manual cutting begins. These omissions haunt the edges of agricultural simulations. Reminders that no algorithm yet captures the 1,000 natural shocks that flesh and wheat is heir to. Now witness the great automation divide, where Minecraft's charmingly primitive farming collides with the sprawling technological ballet of modern agribusiness. In-game, we dig tidy trenches resembling ancient Mesopotamian irrigation, channeling water in perfectly straight lines to our crops, a system unchanged since pharaohs ruled the Nile. Compare this to center pivot irrigation systems etching perfect green circles across the American Southwest, each metallic behemoth stretching half a mile across desert sands, nozzles precisely calculating droplet size while sensors monitor soil moisture via satellite uplink. Harvesting mechanics reveal even starker contrasts. The nostalgic asterisk swish. Swish asterisk of punching pixelated wheat by hand versus the thunderous approach of real combine harvesters clanking steel dinosaurs devouring 20-foot swaths of grain per pass. They're spinning reels pulling stalks into whirring blades while onboard computers measure yield per acre in real time. And where's Minecraft's equivalent of nitrogen fixing cover crops or the delicate dance of crop rotation? You'll find none, just endlessly fertile dirt blocks begging for endless monoculture, ignoring millennia of agricultural wisdom screaming that such recklessness turns breadbaskets into dust bowls. These virtual oversimplifications aren't failures, they're necessities for fun gameplay, but playing farmer versus being one is like comparing finger painting to restoring the Sistine Chapel frescoes. Here lies gaming's quiet rebellion against our dopamine-addicted era. Beneath the instant harvests and cartoonish cows, farming simulators secretly reintroduce forgotten virtues. When you find yourself idly watching your Minecraft crops, waiting for that exact moment when golden tips emerge so no wheat goes to waste, you're exercising muscles of patience atrophied by TikTok scrolls and same-day delivery. That virtual field becomes a meditation space, digital Zen garden where delayed gratification blooms pixel by pixel. Real farmers know this watchful waiting, intimately sitting on porches sipping sweet tea while eyeballing cloud formations, leaning on fence posts, observing subtle color shifts in distant fields, developing what old-timers called land sense. Modern games accidentally preserve these slower rhythms, forcing players to sit with stillness amid high-speed entertainment culture. There's beauty in both realms. Routine, the farmer's dawn patrol through dew-laden fields, murmuring to plants like old friends, the Minecraft player's evening ritual of replanting under eternal twilight, finding solace in orderly rows glowing beneath a blocky moon. Both are acts of faith, trusting invisible processes, believing empty soil will fulfill its ancient promise to feed us. Ultimately, these parallels reveal gaming's power not to replicate farming's physical reality, but to distill its emotional essence, that primal joy of nurturing growth against all odds. Whether monitoring thunderstorms through a farmhouse window or fending off pixelated zombies threatening your virtual cabbages, the heart quickens similarly at nature's capriciousness. What we cultivate through these experiences isn't just digital produce or bumper crops, but renewed awe for Earth's quiet miracles and patient hands guiding them. So next time your Minecraft wheat reaches its final golden stage in 30 seamless minutes, pause, breathe, and imagine generations of farmers past gazing across oceans of grain they coaxed from stubborn soil one painstaking season at a time. Both worlds, the one rendered in polygons and the one drenched in sweat, whisper the same timeless truth. All abundance springs from patience. All harvests reward those willing to wait. Picture this. A world of endless possibility stretches before you, sun-warmed pixels glinting with promise, your hand clutching a wooden hoe as you stand at the precipice of agricultural history. We step back through the shimmering veil of updates and patches to the raw, untamed days of Minecraft's infancy, when wheat wasn't just sustenance, but a revolutionary act of bending the wilderness to your will. The breeze carried no scent of baking bread back then. No lowing of cows awaiting their golden bales, only the crunch of dirt underfoot as you dragged that first crude hoe across damp earth under an infinite blocky sky. Wheat seeds were whispers of potential plucked from trembling grass. Tiny emblems of civilization pressed into soil that had never known cultivation. No hunger bar gnawed at your sleeve, no urgency beyond the creeping desk, just the simple sacred act of sowing and waiting, watching those first tentative green shoots breach the earth like hesitant explorers. Growth happened in erratic bursts during those experimental days. The world itself seemed unsure of time's passage. Was an hour a minute? Did moonlight truly nourish these slender stems? Players became pioneers by lamplight, charting growth cycles on scrap paper, trading folklore about rain's blessings across flickering forum threads. There's magic in those half-remembered harvests, the way wheat shot upward almost playfully under certain updates, fields rippling gold in. What felt like mere days, baskets overflowing before you'd finished reinforcing your dirt hut against the night's creeping shadows. Then everything changed. Imagine the worldwide gasp echoing across servers when that first hunger update descended, a creeping emptiness coiling in players' bellies, transforming wheat fields from pastoral decoration into lifelines clawed from the soil. Suddenly, every golden stalk gleamed like currency, your trembling hands threshing not just for seeds, but survival. Red became your heartbeat, flat, dense loaves stacked in chests like ingots, each bite holding back the gnawing void that drained your sprint and sapped your strength. Villagers awoke from their static days in this new era, clumsy block hands finally grasping the essential truth of cultivation. Watching those robed figures shuffle through freshly tilled rows felt like witnessing the birth of agriculture itself. Here stood the first NPC farmers, their bulbous heads bobbing as they mirrored your own motions, trading emeralds for your hard-won harvests in a primitive market economy. But necessity breeds invention, Nando. How minds raced when redstone wizards discovered crops could be automated. Pistons hissed, water flowed in clever channels, and minicart hoppers sang their metallic song beneath fields that harvested themselves at the push of a button. Wheat's humble seed ascended to unexpected prominence, its golden grains almost an afterthought as players obsessed over those tiny kernels' currency for sustaining infinite fields. Bargaining chips with villagers, the pulsing heart of self-replenishing bread engines humming in mountain vaults. The ecosystem evolved. Wheat summoned cows, cows bred for leather, leather armors explorers against the lengthening nights, every chain leading back to those endlessly cycling rows. Progress, however, is rarely a smooth furrow. Updates brought growing pains that left communities reeling, algorithms shifting overnight, turning lush fields into barren wastes as growth mechanics fractured under Mojang's tinkering. The bone meal revolution arrived like a thunderclap. White powder transforming farming into an explosive spectacle where fields erupted skyward in seconds, only to be nerfed back to earth, forcing recalibrations of timing and expectation. Cross-platform parity smoothed these rhythms eventually. Bedrock and Java shaking hands across the digital divide to synchronize growth timings, a metronome click beneath the pastoral surface, ensuring the beat of sprout and bloom remained constant whether you dug dirt on console, PC, or phone. Now we stand at the cusp of tomorrow's farms. Whispers of genetic modification mods hum through the community, hybrid wheat strains growing at hyperspeed under neon lights. Crop rotation systems humming with robotic precision, yet the ghost of those early, languid fields lingers. There's beauty in the waiting, after all. The way Twilight Guild's swaying stalks, how seasons might one day ripple through biomes, bringing autumn's withering and spring's reckless abundance. Mojang's teases glow like distant lanterns, archaeology brushes revealing ancient seeds in desert ruins. Rumors of pests requiring crop rotation, climates demanding irrigation canals snaking through terraced hills. Through every iteration, one truth endures. Wheat remains the thread weaving Minecraft's history together. From those first tentative seeds scattered in beta soil to the sprawling mechanized plantations of today, it's all ultimately about that elemental human act, palm pressing seed to earth, head tilting skyward, waiting for rain and grace and time's patient alchemy to transform sunlight into gold. The future may bring unimaginable agricultural wonders, but step into any moonlit field even now, sickle in hand, and you'll feel the echo of Alpha's wines whispering through the wheat, that perfect, unbroken lineage of growth reaching from Minecraft's dawn straight through the screen and into your bones. Let me take you on a journey where time unfolds like the slow uncurling of a seedling's first leaf, a world where the symphony of soil and stalk becomes your lullaby. Close your eyes, or let your gaze grow soft as we wander through endless fields of whispering wheat beneath skies painted with the brushstrokes of eternal twilight. Imagine standing barefoot in earth, so rich and cool it holds the memory of 1,000 rains. Each step sinks you deeper into a carpet of freshly tilled loam that crumbles with a sound like ancient parchment being gently unfolded beneath your toes. There in this quiet cathedral of agriculture, the real magic happens not in sweeping vistas, but in microscopic moments. The crunch of a clod breaking apart under a hand hoe becomes a seismic event captured by microphones hovering centimeters above the ground. Can you hear it? That fragile collapse of dirt structure like tiny castles of earth surrendering to gravity, a cascade of crumbling particles that resonates through your bones as if the planet itself whispers secrets only your nervous system, Understands now shift your attention to the wheat stalks towering like golden skyscrapers in this miniature metropolis, each one ripe and heavy with grain lean closer, until your breath rustles their delicate beards. Listen. As mature stems protest their bending with papery crackles that echo the sound of autumn leaves underfoot, but softer, more fragile, as if the stalks sing their swan song in frequencies meant only for creatures who take the time to press their ears against the earth further out beyond this intimate circle of sound. Water ambience loops wrap around the scene like liquid silk. Imagine irrigation channels gurgling their patient mantra, some near enough to hear individual droplets kissing the soil, others so distant they blur into white noises, soothing static that blankets your mind like auditory fog. Between these layers of sound, occasionally a breeze stirs the field, making 6 million wheat heads sway in unison, creating a rustle akin to celestial static, a chorus of shushing that tells your racing thoughts, hush now, be still, observe with me as our focus narrows to single pixel transitions in this living tapestry. Each growth stage reveals textures so detailed they could be landscapes unto themselves. Watch as seedling fuzz morphs into adolescent stubble, then explodes into the gold filigree of full maturity. Notice how shades shift, not in bold strokes, but in whispers, the pale green of sprouting shoots holding traces of soil's darkness before brightening into adolescent vibrancy, then mellowing toward harvest gold, as if the plants themselves age in reverse, growing wiser and more golden with each passing hour. When lightning fractures the night sky, consider how its electric veins illuminate texture rarely seen, raindrops clinging to wheat beards like liquid diamonds, moonlight transforming dew into mercury droplets, and the sudden revelation of caterpillars sleeping beneath leaves, their bodies curled like living semicolons in nature's drowsy sentence. Let your eyelids grow heavy as I match my words to the unhurried rhythm of crop growth. No dramatic inflections here, only narration flowing slower than sap in winter, each syllable stretched like taffy across the warm afternoon as your screen pulses with gentle light. Since growth cycles, let the blink of your eyes become ceremonies, time to the appearance of new leaf pixels, each flutter a silent applause for photosynthesis in action when fertilizer applications fail and crops briefly stutter. Yawn with me, stretch your jaw wide in shared disappointment, feel that release as productivity pressures dissolve into agricultural acceptance, lean into boredom as an art form, for here in the monotony lies unexpected depth. Count wheat stalks with me not as tally marks, but as meditation, 1 stalk to stalk, 3 stalk, each number a stepping stone into deeper tranquility. Imagine them not as future bread, but as golden sentinels guiding you towards sleep, their rustling transforming into nature's own sheep counting ritual hum under your breath, a familiar tune, perhaps those floating piano notes from forgotten biomes. Let their melodies warp and stretch into droning lullabies where single notes linger like fireflies caught in honey. Distort them until they blur into pure vibration, harmonizing with cricket chirps looping beneath the stars. Be not alarmed when distant groans seep through the soundscape, that's just the marsh biome's nocturnal chorus, muffled cleverly by hay bales strategically placed like sonic sponges, absorbing sharp edges of the night, each groan flattened into warm bass tones that throb like a sleeping giant's heartbeat beneath the fields. Your eyelids grow heavier, still pulled downward by the gravity of ripe wheat. Bend willingly into this sensory hammock woven from all we've explored. Water's distant song now becomes your breath, crackling stalks become your slowing pulse, flickering screen light fades into the gentle strobe of drowsy neurons, firing rest now deep in the fertile cradle of cultivated silence, where every rustle is a lullaby and every yawn a harvest of sweet unconsciousness. Sleep well, child of the soil, your dreams will smell of rain on dry earth and glow with the soft gold of endless wheat fields swaying beneath a pixel moon. No quests remain, no crops wilt, hear only the perpetual rustling chorus of nature's quietest symphony playing just for you forever. Imagine yourself standing at the edge of a digital field in a world made of cubes, the sun painting long shadows across the grass blocks while your fingers hover over wheat stalks dancing in the pixelated breeze. Each seed buried in this coarse soil carries more than agricultural potential. It carries a lesson in temporal philosophy whispered through lines of code. Time moves differently here, dawn to dusk in 20 minutes flat. A compressed exaggeration of our earthly rhythms where you can watch entire days burn across the sky like falling constellations while your crops remain stubbornly unchanged. Isn't this the familiar ache of waiting? That space between planting and harvest mirrors all deferred dreams simmering on society's back burner, the novel half-written, the business plan, tucked in drawers, all those seeds of potential demanding more patience than our modern bones can often muster. Mohang didn't merely code wheat mechanics. They encoded existential puzzles. Every time you push seed into chunky dirt, you're being asked, what will you do while the universe unfolds? The developers nudging us away from passive waiting into active exploration. Notice how golden wheat sways hypnotically while adventure pulses beyond the farm's borders. Dark forests with trunks wider than villages, oceans stretching toward the world's sharp edge. This is game design as Zen master teaching us that value multiplies through anticipation. When wheat grows slowly, when you must wait through multiple day, night cycles watching stems thicken millimeter by digital millimeter, each golden stalk becomes precious. Scarcity manufactures meaning here. The opposite of instant gratification gaming where resources rain like candy from loot boxes. There's exquisite tension too, between our technological instincts shouting automate, optimize, build hopper systems, and redstone harvesters. And the quieter voice whispering, what if you just stood still? What if you let things grow as they will? Relinquishing control becomes radical spiritual practice when you're governed by random tick algorithms, the hidden math determining whether this particular wheat stalk matures in 10 minutes or 20, uncertainty coded in binary. You stand barefoot on warm dirt watching clouds drift and realize how little you command here, truly grasp it in your gut, that you're merely tending a garden in God's hard drive. Some players rebel, flooding fields with bone meal to force instant gratification. But the wise ones learn serenity. They plant their seeds, then walk away into mine shafts or mountain ranges, trusting sunlight and code to work mysteries while they're gone. Returning to find fields shimmering gold feels like receiving gifts from the universe itself. The game murdering see how beautiful things happen without your frantic meddling. This digital patience blossoms into quiet rebellion against our Twitch response culture, a middle finger to the dopamine casinos of modern gaming, while triple. As titles blast our senses with exploding set pieces and constant rewards, a Minecraft dares to bore us beautifully. The deliberate slowness becomes meditation. Your mouse clicks, sensing with breath as planting becomes ritual, seed, step, the rhythm turning into mantra. Your initial restlessness grow already softens into something resembling affection for the waiting itself. Those tedious hours sprout unexpected benefits. Time to notice how sunbeams filter through birch leaves, to appreciate the mathematical perfection of bee pollination pads, to compose haikus in your head as you watch a rabbit's nose through your crops. The very act of becoming present enough to find fascination in farming's mundanity rewires your neural pathways, conditioning you against society's infinite scroll mentality. There's profound comfort in these pixel stalks, their predictable needs offering sanctuary from overwhelming worlds. No climate emergencies here, no failing hybrids due to drought, just eternal sunshine cycling reliably. Your wheat field stands immune to everything but your harvesting sickle. As you pace between rows in those quiet twilight hours waiting for maturation, the repetitive motions unlock a flow state. The comforting knowledge that as long as you keep planting and waiting and harvesting, the cycle will sustain both your blocky avatar and some hidden part of your buzzing. Anxious mind, digital agriculture becomes grounding psychology. Each harvest festival for one reinforcing that slow work bears fruit, literally and metaphorically. Nightfall's monsters spawn at the world's edges, but standing illuminated amidst your glowing jack-o'-lanterns. Sickle raised over golden wheat, you taste pure calm. The game never once told you this would be the reward, yet here you are, finding home in rhythms slower than your heartbeat. This is how virtual fields cultivate real virtues. How Soil Made of Ones and Zeros teaches us to stop warping time with our desires. Minecraft's greatest triumph might be tricking an impatient generation into enjoying anticipation, into romanticizing process over payoff. When rain finally patters on your farmland after days of sun, When you become patient enough to appreciate the aesthetic of droplets clinging to pixels rather than stressing over lost sunshine growth cycles, you know the transformation's complete. You've officially become someone who can breathe between moments, who finds poetry in waiting, who feels abundance in 8 wheat yielding 3 loaves. One synchronized beat of your heart matching the game's steady pulse, the universal truth revealed in a farming simulator. The deeper magic was patience all along. The understanding that while not everything grows fast enough for your liking, everything grows exactly on time.